This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice. I'm Julie Grant. Before his death at the young age of 33, rapper Nipsey Hussle was making an impact throughout his community, making strides that would far surpass anything he did musically. And we want to take some time this afternoon to focus not only on the rapper's successful career, but also on his community involvement and philanthropy, something that was a very important part of his life right up until the moment of his tragic death. We have a very special guest joining us on the program today. He is the host of the nationally syndicated radio show, The Morning Hustle, and Dish Nation. Head Crack is joining us. Head Crack, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's great to see you.
Thanks for having me. Peace and love.
Absolutely, right back at you. And that's very much what Nipsey Hussle, was about. And, and we'll get to that. But first, I wanted you to speak to his success in the music industry and how that came about. I know you were very knowledgeable about the industry, and I understand it was mixtapes that he put out first before he found all that acclaim for his debut album.
Absolutely. Nipsey Hussle was one of those artists who attacked the industry in his own way, while everybody was doing things in a traditional way, like, hey, put it on this streaming platform, do it this way, that way. He really got popping with his mixtape situation, and he started this whole Proud to Pay campaign where he was selling his mixtapes for like $100 and up. And people were rushing out in droves to pay the money to, support his vision and what he had going on. Even Jay-Z at one point in time bought like I think hundreds of copies of his tapes at $100 a pop, just because he believed in what Nipsey Hussle was doing, and it was a different kind of wave. And the people reacted well to the music, and that helped, solidify his place within the music business as well, and make him an even bigger name to watch.
Right. I'm glad you said that about Jay-Z. I read that. I wondered if it was true, something like 100 of those mixtapes, which had to have been so huge for him, right, as an aspiring rapper trying to make it, and then someone like Jay-Z acknowledges your work. I mean, just tremendous. And it was like he was, breaking through. I mean, he had the Grammy nomination right before his death, and then, posthumously wins Grammy Awards. Talk to me about that. The community, the hip hop community, the music community that knew him for his music, and then, honored him, afterward for his art. Talk to us a little bit about that, if you would, please, Head Crack.
Nipsey Hussle was so loved and respected because of the TLC that he put into everything he did. I mean, he wasn't one of those artists who just threw stuff out just randomly. Like, let me drop a mixtape in March, June, February, just for the sake of doing it. Like, he really took his time with everything he did. That's why there's not like all these extra Nipsey Hussle verses floating around, and why no one's rushed out a posthumous album yet. I think we've gotten a single here, maybe a reused verse from something here that Jay-Z actually used on the Black Panther soundtrack. And, he was loved. It was his message. It was the fact that he was speaking his truth, and the fact that he was truly a man of action and, put his words to use. You know what I mean? Like, the things that he was doing in the community speaks volumes, and it actually stretched outside of his community and empowered people all around the world. Like, everything from buying back your block, and even how he was giving opportunities for people within his neighborhood to get gainful employment that possibly couldn't get gainful employment in other places due to their criminal history or whatever. He looked at everybody equally and believed in second chances, and believed that, like, it's not about how you start, it's how you finish, because indeed the marathon does continue. And, it was a beautiful thing to see that his words and his motivational quotes were shared, during his death, as much as they were while he was alive. You know what I mean? Sometimes, like, people only get love after they're no longer here. Like, the support and love for Nipsey was very constant before he passed, and it got bigger when he passed. But these words are, like, forever. They're immortal, because the things that he was preaching are things that, you can use today.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
And you can use 100 years from now.
Mm-hmm. He was leading by example, right? I'm so sorry, Head Crack, go ahead.
No, I'm saying hustle and motivate. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like, let the hustle motivate you to be great. Because if he can do it, you can do it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, talk about somebody, you know, who, I mean, literally, you know, did a 180, turned his life around, did so much good for so many other people, set an example for everybody who knew him, for his kids, for members of the community, really practiced what he preached, which isn't easy to do. You know, it's easy to preach, or, you know, you have an audience maybe, you know, because of the music, but I mean, he was literally living by example. And when you think about who really knew that, it was those people in South Central LA, right? Would you talk to us a little bit about what he meant in Los Angeles? I mean, you know, major city in the United States, and there he was truly beloved.
You know, I went to the Marathon store probably about, it was maybe 3 weeks after Nipsey passed. And there were still droves of people out there just doing anything, whatever they can to support. And I may be a little bit off with the time, because I know the store officially closed down for a little bit and then opened back up, but you feel the presence. People traveled from all around the world just to be in the energy field of where they knew Nipsey Hussle once operated, where his store once stood. People were, to this day, still buying the shirts and supporting the brand. And the fact that there's so much of Nipsey Hussle's DNA in his community, you know, through the businesses that he opened, the retail complexes that he was involved in. There are people that are still gainfully employed because Nipsey Hussle put in the work, and that is a legacy that you can never break. You know what I'm saying? That's something that will never change, and you can't take that away from him. And it's inspired future potential Nipsey Hussles, who will maybe, like, you know, take what he did as a baton and run that to the finish line and teach the next generation of future leaders to do something amazing in their community. And I'm happy to see it. I'm glad we lived in a time where we got a chance to see a brother like Nipsey Hussle operate and show you that there is a different way to do it. And sometimes you may not necessarily live long enough to reap the benefits of the seeds that you planted, but you planted seeds that's gonna grow.
Oh, you said that beautifully, head crack, just beautifully. You know, that's the truth. I mean, he was killed at 33 years of age, and you think about how young that is, his whole life ahead of him, 2 young children left behind, everything he still was going to do for that community. I mean, he had done so much. And something I wanted to ask you about, we know that his music was appreciated, right? And, you know, people may have known him, you know, for his music. Not everybody who loved his music necessarily knew about everything he was doing in South Central LA, because that wasn't necessarily what was being reported on, and it wasn't like that was, you know, making the headlines. You know, why do you think that is? That, you know, it's other things, maybe the rap, the music that makes the headlines, that's the stuff that, you know, goes on social media, but not necessarily all the stuff that is just wowing us now that we're talking about him, you know, with the trial going on for the man accused of his murder.
I mean, the interesting thing is, like, you know, a lot of times, especially in hip hop, music is the vehicle that gets you in the door. Like, you know, it's the conversation starter that gets everything rolling. And once your name is at the top of people's tongues through your artistry, that's when you really gotta operate. And a lot of times people get into the business, they get hot, and they're all about buying, like, you know, the most exotic cars they can buy, a lot of self-appreciation things. But he instantly invested his money back into the community that he was raised in, and created amazing situations. And sometimes it takes a little bit more time for the news of those things to travel as fast of, you know, as the fact that, hey, I got a new song coming out. But, you know, I'm based in Atlanta, and I heard just as much of the entrepreneurial things he was doing in real time as I did about the music, which speaks volumes. Because, you know, in the media business, it's all about, not necessarily celebrating, but we always put the negative things out front. And there wasn't too many negative things that Nipsey had going on. It was all positive. His music was motivational. It made you feel good. You'll learn something by listening to it. And that's not something that you could say about a lot of artists. And, you know, and I'm just glad that he did leave a decent body of work to serve as some sort of, you know, Bible or instruction manual on how to kind of gather your thoughts, get it together, and be a great leader for your community. So if, you know, to everybody who was late on that message, you know, sorry you missed it, but it's still there. Like, just Google Nipsey Hussle motivational quotes on YouTube, and you will see hour-long videos of him just, you know, speaking truth to power, telling you how to get your community together, righteousness, and even things that he was even working on in the health and wellness space. He was working on a documentary, you know, talking about the life and times of Dr. Sebi, who, you know, by a lot of people's accounts, and I believe in it as well, had the answers and cures to a lot of diseases. And he was just all about not necessarily helping people grow and live longer monetarily, but also health, because health is the true wealth as well. He was truly like, you know, a 360-degree total package of an amazing human being who was snatched from us far too early.
Way too soon. You're so right, Headcrack. You know, he's left a legacy. He's truly one of those people who may have been on this earth for a short amount of time, you know, but left a tremendous legacy behind that people can still enjoy, live by, use as a motivator, an example, an inspiration, all of that. Our hearts go out to his family, his kids in particular, and we will see if justice is done as this trial continues progressing in Los Angeles. Headcrack, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for everything you offered us today here on the show. And want to remind our viewers they can listen to you on The Morning Hustle and on Dish Nation. Hoping to talk to you again soon. Take good care.
You do the same. Much love.
Thank you kindly.